Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good day and God bless you. Alright, let's get right into the news here because there's quite to cover on this Saturday. I think that Trump is daring or inviting Merrick Garland to indict him. Not because he committed a crime and he just wants to be indicted. I think Trump knows that. They've been after him since 2015. With a dossier purchased by Clinton, The Washington Post reported years back. I think it wasn't even in 2017 that the Steele dossier was literally purchased by the DNC in the Clinton campaign, and they paid FEC fines for purchasing a dossier of false, derogatory, completely fabricated information utilized by James Comey and others, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation and Strzok. And McCabe and Brennan and Clapper and others against an incoming Republican candidate. They're accusing Trump of going after his political rivals as they go after Trump, their political rival, even on the state level, with intelligence agencies on the federal level. But if you look CNBC, DOJ appeals decision to appoint special master in Trump. FBI re-document search, CNN DOJ appeals decision to order a special master. Now, you looked at they're going back and forth with Trump like they've done since the beginning of all of this. They couldn't get Trump on colluding with the Kremlin because it never happened. They couldn't get Trump for pressuring people in Georgia. That never happened either. They're investigating Trump endlessly. They couldn't get him for campaign finance violations with Stormy. They couldn't get him for trying to overthrow democracy and to January's ago. Okay. They can't get the man because he didn't commit a crime if they are desperate to indict him and convict him. But they can't do so because he didn't commit a crime. Now with Hillary and top-secret intelligence on servers running outside of the United States government, actual emails flowing outside of the United States government onto phones in 2009. And servers that are run by people outside, well, the people working essentially for Glenton. Classic classified data being siphoned onto networks outside the US government, where anyone on the planet can infiltrate those networks, and almost certainly did, according to Michael Hayden, and even Comey. They didn't indict because no reasonable prosecutor would. And the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation stated, although there's potential violations of legal statutes, no reasonable prosecutor would indict. Okay, Trump doesn't get that luxury hunter has a litany of crimes, in his photos, videos, emails, the Daily Mail and the New York Post published. Notice whenever I make a claim, I'm backing it up, I can tell you where to look at where to research the claim. New York Post broke that story and Twitter, suppressed them and silenced them and suspended them. Why? Because it hurt Democrats. A Democrat in Las Vegas is linked to the most heinous crime, ending the life of a Las Vegas Review journalist. None of the major publications or cable stations acknowledge that it was a Democrat that did this, a Democratic politician ending the life of a journalist in the most horrific manner. Could you imagine if a Trump Republican did this? Could you imagine the endless coverage? Okay. Contest Trump versus Biden. Trump is a 0.8 points in a rematch with mashed potato brains according to Real Clear Politics. Okay, that's what the New York Times publishing op-eds or opinions stating that, well, you know, it's important to call them authoritarians, and it's important to say the Trump Republicans are threats to democracy, and it's not just it's CNN and MSNBC in the Washington Post, the New York Times, and they're very adamant and they're seeing a Trump as a big menace to democracy. How do we know? Because they're saying that even though household median incomes were at record highs under Trump, poverty was at record low under Trump in 2019. Before Democrats in media and bureaucrats pushed to take the U.S. economy, and that was that the political will and the push for that came from Democrats, wasn't Trump numerous times. So yeah, we can't do this. He acquiesced for a month or so. Couple of months because the entire American political establishment yet again was obsessed with ending economic activity, giving stimulus checks, and oh, by the way, we have inflation and all-time highs. What's this? A wave of layoffs is sweeping the U.S. Here are firms that have announced cuts so far from Peloton to Snap, Business Insider. A wave of layoffs. A wave of layoffs has swept across American business in 2022. That cut stems from slower business growth paired with rising labor costs. The layoffs span across industries from mortgage lending to digital payment processing. If you've lasted this long on this segment, and you say, well, wait a second, you said that he's inviting Merrick Garland? Yeah. He knows that they're going to eventually almost certainly indict him whether or not they can convict him of a crime. It's been too long. You have to understand. Democrats have obsessed over a person they've made out to be the greatest criminal of all time. Yep, again, indict. You're gonna die in 2 seconds with Hillary or Hunter, and I want to Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump 2024. I think we need to relive 2016. You don't need like 6 years of investigation. You siphon classified data onto servers, delete 30,000 emails and destroy hardware and give your servers completely wiped clean to the Bureau. Yeah, you've obstructed justice. And you've not only mishandled classified data, it's like an abomination. It's like the worst thing you could ever do is just funnel top secret or classified data, siphon it onto networks. It's a cybersecurity nightmare. They made a complete mockery of classified data. But he's inviting. I think that Trump probably wants Garland. I know, you might think I'm nuts. I think he wants Garland to indict him. It's sooner rather than later, because this way, he can go ahead and say, yeah, you know what? Let's make the best man win or best person win. His fundraising apparatus knows what they're getting into. And he's indicted, and the majority of Republicans, according to latest poll I was reading, I think it was Business Insider. I forgot the publication. But according to the latest poll, I can tell you right now, majority of Americans would vote for an indicted Trump. Guess what? Indicted Trump in many polls would be above mashed potato brains. We're in a recession with layoffs, corporate profits declining. And Republic here Newsweek, Republicans want Donald Trump for 2024, even if he's indicted. So they would only benefit him. That's my point. Okay, 8 minutes in, it would only benefit him. It would not hurt him at all. What hurts Trump is the constant obsession, oh my God, he did that. If the US government going after, let's just say if Biden's administration going after the direct political rival in an authoritarian manner, by the way, this is what totalitarians do. They use intelligence agencies, they have a monopoly on media coverage, they silence and censor and suppress any dissent. Who were the authoritarians? I would love to know this. If Trump is pretty much banned on every social media platform, and who cares if he, like, Democrats didn't accept that Trump was Stacey Abrams didn't accept that she lost to Kemp. So, spare me the outrage and the apoplectic hysteria that Trump doesn't recognize or Trump doesn't accept, and this is a hallmark of democracy. No, it isn't. You've tried to repackage, have you tried to infuse your sensibilities within some kind of weird new definition of democracy? Democracy has literally nothing to do with the Democratic Party. Nothing. The Democratic Party is a political party. That's it. If Trump doesn't agree with the Democratic Party, he thinks the Democratic Party is full of, you know what, so what? You thought he was full of, you know what, you didn't trust him at all. He doesn't trust you. So that a hallmark of democracy, you can have Trump or half the country or as many people doesn't matter. He said, well, and if you don't accept that, it's well, you never accept the Trump from day one. And yet democracy existed, and it's and continues to exist. And we don't have freedom of speech. But okay. The reason we don't have freedom of speech is the same reason the economy was forced to grind to a halt 2 years ago, which is the same reason that media doesn't acknowledge that a Democrat almost certainly ended, a journalist's life in Las Vegas in Nevada. You have liberal, a wonderful, morally superior, highly educated, liberal sensibilities infused within social media algorithms, within media, within journalism, within the political establishment. You can't even watch late night. You can't even watch late night. You can't. We used to be able to watch Arsenio Hall. We used to be able to watch Johnny Carson. We used to be able to watch late night and enjoy ourselves as a country. Politics has to be omnipresent for Democrats, or else they have no chance. Because their ideas and their policies are so terrible. They have to either run through coercion, or social media algorithms suppressing thought, or people just say, you know what, I mean, you have half the country, almost half the electorate that wants Trump no matter what. Okay, all of this. He stands for everything bad on the planet, nobody believes. Okay. This is like the caricature of Trump does not take into account Doha Agreement, Abraham Accords, the first president to step foot in North Korea, record low Black and Latino unemployment, first president to allocate more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever, and made the funding permanent. And signed prison reform legislation. I mean, what kind of authoritarian signs prison reform legislation and signs an executive order combating anti-Semitism on college campuses? I want to know this authoritarian, this tyrant. It's the authoritarians and tyrants that side with secretive intel agencies that have high to moderate confidence assessments that somebody's doing something really bad, we have to investigate. And so they're gonna throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at Trump because the economy is tanking, corporate profits are going to plummet. Inflation. And I call this in 2021. And you're seeing all of this volatility because interest rates are going up. Inflation is at a 40-year high. It's not getting any better. You vote for Democrats in the midterms, you're literally voting for a recession, like a prolonged economic downturn. What did Trump do to you to actually want you to actually make you vote for an economic downfall? Just so you wouldn't have to listen to the apoplectic and morally superior and highly educated historians, and pundits and journalists and how bad he had Trump. Who cares? I mean, is there anything more to the life of a morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat than Trump? I mean, look at the economy. Look at foreign policy. There's an invasion under your watch, Democrats in Europe. Is that okay? Imagine if Trump resided with, through all of these problems? What do you think they would say? Trump, oh my God, he's the end of the world. They have to cover up everything. That's why they don't mention the Democratic official. They don't say Democrats in county official. Local official ended a journalist's life, local official. I mean, what a Democrat if it was Trump Republic, Trump rip up look on. Look what he does. This is why Trump in prison people would vote for him still, because they understand the entire system was leveled against this man. It's not an even playing field. Democrats in the most overt manner hide their corruption, suppress any discussion about the criminal activity of the actual criminal activity on their side. They see Trump as a criminal. You haven't proved it. When it's been 6 years, you can't prove a crime. You mean I thought he overthrew democracy 2 years ago? What happened there? Oh, we're investigating in DC, we're investigating in Georgia. We're investigating in New York. We're investigating the federal investigation. You're investigating as a public relations stunt because you don't have anything. That's why everybody knows this. Everybody on the planet knows this now that has a functioning brain cell. They're investigating Trump because they have nothing on him. And eventually one day when the Messiah they don't believe in comes, Democrats will say we've indicted him and the rest of the planet will say so what? We still rather have an indicted Trump. No. And then it'll be the moral pontification, you already voted for Donald Trump. You'd vote for an indicted Hillary, you'd vote for him, Day Joe. You don't even acknowledge Hunter's litany of crimes with firearms, like crime that the Secret Service covered up according to Politico. I mean, everything I say, you can just back up but see, the thing is Democrats don't know anything about their own corruption. It's never talked about. They run on groupthink and hysteria. Hey, Trump to this transistor. And everything is a muted, toned down response when it comes to Democrats, or you can just simply can't talk about anything. You just simply can't bring up any discussion. There are sacred cows that Democrats worship and the sacred cows are formed. They're created by wonderful liberal sensibilities. A prime example is not a sacred cow. But when a very revered atheist was asked, you're okay with suppressing and silencing information or censoring information. Well, Trump University is worse than graft and bribery, white kickbacks, topple governments, when you get the president getting money from Hunter. If you weren't accepted that, then you're accepting a government being toppled? Because money flowing from other countries that have their national security interests being addressed by our president is a big problem. So you could make the same case, like they try to say, Trump's foreign policy is in the interest of the Kremlin's 20% of U.S. uranium capacity. President Obama didn't veto. Why is that? Maybe they had something to do with hundreds of millions in the foundation, maybe, I don't know. Even the New York Times talked about that. Anyway, I think he knows that. It's probably benefits Trump the sooner he gets indicted, because this way he can go ahead and say, look, let's go ahead. I'm running. He would decimate any competition, even indicted. There is no competition within the Republican Party. DeSantis is not DeSantis is fantastic. I love DeSantis. I would vote for him in 2 seconds if Trump wasn't running, but they would try to indict DeSantis. And you see what the Washington Post went after the judge that approved the special master? Oh, she invites scrutiny. Really? How did she? Who did she invite scrutiny from? Is it like Trump inviting Garland to indict him? This isn't a headpiece on anybody in particular. That Washington Post wrote a hit piece on a judge. There goes reverence for our democratic institutions. Just hit piece on the judge that makes a ruling we don't like. I mean, you can't. The hypocrisy is unbelievable. Hopefully you folks enjoyed this chat this morning.